Welcome to Politics NY with Skye Behind the Curtain. And today I'm with Ira Costell. He is running for Brookhaven Town Clerk, and we'll get to know a little bit about him. So, Ira, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Skye. It's great to be here with you today.
Yeah, so tell everyone a little bit about your background and why you are running for town clerk in the town of Brookhaven.
Well, there's a lot of ground to cover, but I'll try to keep it as direct and succinct as possible. I have lived in Brookhaven Town most of my life. Since 1965. It's a town I love and appreciate. So many resources and so many opportunities. I'm an outdoors person. I've always loved hiking and walking in the woods and the beaches, and just so many and good neighborhoods and good people that live in Brookhaven Town. A town, by the way, that's 480,000 people, larger than the city of Miami. So this is a significant population that needs to be served with attentiveness and compassion, and that's something I'm committed to. I came from this angle with an extensive background in the environment. I have a master's degree in environmental planning. I've been an advocate in Suffolk County and Brookhaven Town in particular for decades, advocating for clean water and open spaces because I understand the implications for our future and our children's future and their children's future if we don't properly protect our water. So I have a record of doing that. I served as chair of what was once called the Suffolk County Pine Barrens Review Commission, which subsequently was succeeded by a state entity called the Central Pine Barrens Commission, which is charged with overseeing development applications in the Pine Barrens, which is the freshest source of our cleanest water. And so I have a history of preserving property and protecting clean water. And I've worked with many, many elected officials over the years to do just that. I served also as on the Long Island North Shore Heritage Area Planning Commission, which was charged by the state to preserve, protect, and promote the cultural, historical, and natural resources of the North Shore of Long Island. So I got to know points from Queens Line out to Orient Point, and love this area. So I've been committed to working and serving my community in any number of ways. What prompted me to run for this office was a sad confluence of events. Back in 2007, on February 12th, Lincoln's birthday, my 22-year-old nephew, David Aaron Costell, succumbed to the disease of addiction and died from a heroin overdose. Back then, people were only vaguely and barely starting to pay attention to what has mushroomed and exploded in this country, in this state, in this county, and in the town of Brookhaven. In fact, Suffolk County has experienced more overdose deaths than any other county in the entire state of New York. Mm-hmm. I repeat that, in the entire state of New York. That's Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, not aggregate, but cumulative deaths in just each of those. Suffolk County has led in this unfortunate statistic, and Brookhaven Town constitutes 40% of that total. Mm-hmm. That should make it very clear that this is the epicenter of the disease of addiction in the state of New York. And as much as I have been proud and pleased to have the responsibility and obligation to work with other families across the state of the county and state of New York to go to Albany on a consistent basis, 3 and 4 and sometimes 5 times a session on my own time, on my own dime, to knock on doors and get co-sponsors for important legislation that has been passed in the last decade. I say to myself, what has my own town and my own backyard done to address this issue? And so I've looked at it and I've seen a very limited focus and a very limited priority to provide the kinds of help that families need. And so as any public official, as a public servant, you need to serve the needs of the public. And this is clearly one for the families and individuals in this town. So I am trying to reimagine the clerk's role, which is typically seen as very administrative and ministerial because they're primarily record keeping of all of the decisions and actions and activities of the town board, keep track of and prepare resolutions and agendas for various organizations within the town, and allow that free flow of access of information to the town residents, something that I could spend another 10 minutes talking about, how this town clerk and how the town of Brookhaven plays a shell game with information. You call your program Behind the Curtain. Well, we're trying to get information about environmental problems in the town of Brookhaven. It's like trying to pierce the Iron Curtain. And I want to pull that curtain back and make information more accessible and the decisions that are made in this town more transparent. So that's one thing. The other portion of the clerk's role, again, which is somewhat ministerial in nature, is they issue birth certificates, marriage licenses, and death certificates, sadly. Mm-hmm. And I say to myself, it's more than just storing records and stamping certificates and licenses. How do we care for people? How do we touch people's lives in a meaningful way while you're here during that life cycle of birth, marriage, and death, right? And since there's been so many deaths in the town of Brookhaven, I've come up with a 4-point program of action, not just sympathy, not just, gee, this is a terrible problem and I wish we could have more treatment beds. It's so much more and can be more. So I'm reimagining the role of the clerk to not only perform those functions and do it more effectively and more justly, because there are groups fighting for information about the town landfill, which is an environmental justice area in the state of New York, which has been bearing the responsibility and the burden of the town landfill and the health impacts there, can't get information out. Not only am I going to be a good clerk in the typical way, state law, which established the clerk's office, does envision that the clerk can be assigned any number of responsibilities that are just consistent with the law. Mm-hmm. And in fact, by the way, has the responsibility and obligation to ensure that the local municipality is in compliance with all state laws affecting towns. So therefore, you could be a watchdog, an advocate, and an ally for any number of groups. And in particular, the first one, at least my main priority, is to help families and individuals connect with mental health resources and addiction services that are not provided for in this town. And I have specific programs and ideas and not just talk and rhetoric about it.
Wow, Ira Costell, look at all that. It's a wealth of information and you seem intelligent and competent and like you know exactly what you're going to do in this role. So it's very exciting. So much, Ira, for being part of PoliticsNY with Skye.